It's a brand new week. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning here on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa, who have 55 minutes to do business all through this week. We start from the global space where oil prices slipped in Asia on Monday, extending losses from last week on the prospect of a resumption of exports from Kurdistan's oil fields, while investors are awaiting clarity on talks to resolve Russia's war on Ukraine. So we see the movement this morning, it's not so volatile. So we see 0.2%, that's $74.42 for Brent, and 0.2% also for WTI at $70.28 a barrel. Iraq will export 185,000 barrels a day from Kurdistan's oil fields through the Iraq-Turkey pipeline once oil shipments resume. And according to an Iraqi oil ministry official, and Iraq's oil ministry also said that all procedures had been completed to allow the resumption of export through Iraq-Turkey pipeline, potentially resolving a dispute that has disrupted crude oil flows. And then all eyes still on the progress of talks to end Russia's war on Ukraine, which enters its fourth year on Monday. That's today. European Union leaders will meet for an extraordinary summit March 6 to discuss additional support for Ukraine and European security guarantees. And in that space now, but back here in Nigeria, there's looming fuel scarcity in Lagos and other parts of the country as tanker drivers have stopped fuel loading over alleged harassment by officials of the Lagos State government and the Federal Ministry of Transportation. Remember when the government made that pronouncement that trucks of 60,000 liters should not be on the road? I mean, I don't think a lot of people thought about the consequences. This is it. Truck drivers are saying that they have not been able to load, and so they've not been able to deliver product fuel, and this might lead to fuel shortage in the country. Of course, they're asking the Lagos State government as well as the federal government's Ministry of Transport to do something about this before it gets out of hand. And still connected to that, the Association of Telecoms Companies have also raised concerns of a possible network blackout as a strike by petroleum tanker drivers could disrupt diesel supply, threatening the operations of mobile and internet services. Reports say that the truck drivers could not load fuel on Saturday and Sunday, and that has created fears of scarcity in Lagos and other states. However, the Lagos State government has said it was only enforcing the e-call-up system, warning that attempts to blackmail the state government would not work. So we'll see what happens in the coming days connected to this, but we certainly hope that now that we have supply, we do not have logistics issue to cause fuel shortage in the country. Away from that now, the president of the Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, has revealed that the Dangote Petroleum Refinery currently has over 500 million liters of petrol in its reservoir. He said that the refinery now produces enough fuel for local consumption and export. Dangote spoke during a tour of the $20 billion Lekki-based facility with the Zambian Minister for Energy, Makozo Chikote. The Zambian official visited the Dangote refinery, Lekki, Lagos, seeking collaboration with the founder to help solve the country's energy security issue. In his address during the tour, Dangote said the refinery currently has 600 billion naira worth of stocks in its tank farm. He said the plant will reach its 650,000 barrels per day full production capacity next month, adding that Nigeria cannot consume up to 50% of its refined products. Away from energy stories now, one of the promises made by the Bola Tinubu administration since its inception is the building and upgrading of critical infrastructure. And the Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, has reaffirmed the president's commitment to complete all road projects initiated by the current government. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway Phase 1 at Eko Hotel in Lagos, the minister addressed concerns raised by affected communities over ongoing federal road projects across the country.
We We have discussed issue of water side, but
It's a crucial stakeholders meeting on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and other federal road projects nationwide. The Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, lays the premise, giving updates on different federal road projects across the country.
This is beyond road and bridges. It is an investment. Along the corridor, we're going to have a lot of commercial activities. This coastal highway is going to be connecting to the existing, routes. A lot of them we inherited, and I will give you synopsis of what we have done in some of these projects. So this is what we can say about the four legacy projects of Mr. President, and in particular, the coastal highway.
The minister emphasized the administration's commitment to infrastructure development and expressed confidence on why the president will get his support in 2027.
The president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is going to have 99% of the votes of Southeast because he has been very nice to the people of Southeast. And we will leave Southwest to give us 99.99% 2027.
Community leaders at the meeting voiced concerns about the impact of the road construction on their livelihoods and properties.
My town is Ojeomi. It is in Ogun State. The boundary is in Channel 103.
103. That's the end of the job.
That's the end of section 2. Surveyors, I said they are now re-engaging. Alignment that they want to realign the work they have done.
You have cleared. Is it correct, Jabu? You have cleared. Okay. We are not realigning.
We are not realigning. Thank you. We are very grateful.
We are witnessing a transformation, in terms of infrastructural upgrading. The entire Lekki-Epe corridor is being opened up by this administration, and we are very happy with what is going on. And we will assure you that we'll continue to support you.
We will feel left out from the development, from the stretch of road. None of them terminated in the southeast. That one is coming to Ebonyi State,
yes.
Terminating there.
Yes.
Because who felt that stretching from Port Harcourt, this one, that one, why did it pass Enugu and none of them, won't have access to enjoy the beautiful.
Hold on, man. The Southeast is benefiting,
okay,
even though they inherited, but the president directed that he's a unifying president. What Southeast never got, they're getting it.
Yes.
The Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road is a 700-kilometer project designed to connect Victoria Island in Lagos to Calabar in Cross River State, enhancing transportation and economic activities. The agenda, affected communities continue to seek clarity on compensation and resettlement plans. Dari Ido, Channels Television News.
So there you have it, infrastructure talks. The minister has been busy from Wednesday up all through the weekend, talking about this Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. Let's delve more into infrastructural development now with the founder and chief executive officer of Offshore Lab, Emeka Obiwulu. He's right here in the studio. Mr. Obiwulu, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so are you excited about this Lagos-Calabar? It's raised a lot of dust. But we know there's price to be paid for every kind of development. And so there we see the minister meeting with the communities that will be affected. So you have issues of compensation top on the list. Because we do not, individuals should be compensated. They could also take it to court. And these have caused delays in the past. For you now, how do you think this project, because connecting Victoria Island all the way to Calabar, I can just imagine the level of economic activity this could bring. So we have to weigh the costs and the gains. What's your take on how the government is handling this and the prospects in the project?
Thank you again, Ini. I'll answer this in two buckets. One bucket, you ask, am I excited about the project? Of course I am. When you look at our infrastructure gaps and look at what roads provide as pathways to our economic development and look at all of the talk about needing $100 billion over the next 10 years sustained to meet our infrastructure gap, and you see a critical infrastructure project like that in an economic corridor, it's cause to be excited, definitely. The second part of that is you're talking about today's consultation and engagement. We look at projects as not building structures and infrastructure. It's like sowing seeds. And the success of that seed you're sowing is community ownership. So when you have initiatives like this, where you are trying to get that community buy-in, both from the people affected, but very importantly, the people who will take ownership of that project to ensure its sustainability over time, that is the right move in the right direction. Whether that could have been done earlier or later is a subject for a different conversation. What is most important that it is happening? Because when you walk away after the commissioning and cutting of the ribbon, there are people who have to have that local prioritization to take ownership and ensuring that the benefits of that road is actualized. If you have a 40 years life cycle, over those 40 years, there are people that should hold whoever to account who should actually have that oversight and ensure that we keep delivering, getting that value from it. So as a project, 100%, I am very excited about it, and I see a lot of potential,
And at least this meeting with the community members is a welcome move.
It is critical for every project. Right? Any project that you're delivering, when we're talking about sowing seeds, that's local prioritization and getting the people who are getting those benefits to take ownership of that project is key and fundamental to sustainability. So if that is happening now, and if that is sustained, not just in terms of engaging and compensation, but actually selling the value of this project, selling the value of it to their children, and then empowering them with that knowledge to take ownership of that sustainability over time. It's critical in every project. So this is a very important and very welcome development from the government.
Yeah, but I wonder if when you say the people should take ownership for the sustenance of it, then you have the tolls also. You know, that always leaves a bitter pill in the mouth of the people.
Right, so if you want to talk about tolling, I know the sentiments around tolling, but my personal opinion, tolling it's a global initiative, it's a global thing. It's not unique to us. It's, if done right, it's a viable way to maintain roads and maintain your existing roads, expand it, and even build new roads in that sense. But the issue with our backlog of trust issues, of course, you have to have a number of things in place to be able to, one, convince you going through that toll that your money is even leaving where you're handling. So it has to be technology driven. So with that, you're cutting off a level of inefficiency in it. Whoever you're tolling has to see the immediate benefit of the tolling for them to actually buy into it. You don't want to go through gallops and bad roads and pay toll 5 minutes after. You want to see that efficiency in the repairs. You want to know that I'm taking this route and it's a shorter route. It's almost like getting a premium service. So an ideal tolling system is one that's technology driven, is one that has transparency in the fund allocation, is one that you see that immediate benefit, but very importantly as well, it shouldn't be seen as another tax yet again to the citizen. It should actually have, in principle, an ideal case, best base practice is that it should have an alternative route. So the individual who's going through that route understands why I'm paying that premium. And if I can't afford that premium, I go through that alternative route. So it's not a flat-out task imposed on every citizen. So when you have those modeled into that tolling system, you see some of those sentiments, some of those trust issues, some of those things actually start to dissipate, and you then get the individuals who see where their money is going to with road maintenance, not kicking back on another road development, saying we need to toll this to develop it. They start buying into it, and that's where that stakeholder buying comes in, you know, when you do these things and do them correctly. So tolling, done well, I have no issues with it at all.
Interesting that you talk about the alternative routes where there's a tolling. You know, because I don't think we'll always have that. Some of the roads that I hear are being told now, you do not have alternative. You just have that route. But and I hear you the issue of trust, which is very predominant when it comes to government and the governed relationship in Nigeria. But when you say technology, would that mean, in practical terms, when I want to pay, I know when we used to have the one in Lekki, you could have a card.
Yes.
So you know that you're paying electronic, You're
Yes.
not giving cash. You could not. Would that be enough, or is there something else that could monitor and regulate the transparency in the system?
So what that does, that's a very good example of technology. Those card readers and then the tags you have on the vehicles as well. So the cars just go past, it takes it and reads it. Now, we talked about a number of things. So one of it is transparency in the system, right? When you have that mechanism that provides that level of transparency, that these funds are being managed properly. So if I come in and say, I'm going to do a build, operate, and handover, maintain for handover for 10 years, right? And every year, right, we have a data system that you, the end user, actually see, this is the collection rate, this is how much is being plowed back to the operator, this is when this is going to end, this is what is being, you have that trust in that system because there is that transparency that you have access to. So that's in addition to the tag and the card reader that you have there. Having that ability to monitor, see that the fund is being managed properly. When that trust is built, I think it will significantly reduce the antagonism or the distrust we have when they say, oh, yet again, there's another tool, because we see how the funds are being managed and we see it's in our own interests overall.
So we also have the tax credit scheme that has been on for some years now. What's your assessment of the effectiveness of it? We've heard of some roads that Dangote, for instance, has done, but we do not know how many others. So how would you assess the effectiveness of that tax scheme, credit scheme?
What's a given and where we start from, or premise I want us to align on, is the government cannot handle the burden of infrastructure development. For us to meet up with any conversation we're having today globally, it's impossible, right? What the tax credit scheme provides is a viable alternative that allows for private sector participation in critical road infrastructure projects, right? And it provides that framework that permits that to happen. So like you said, we have some notable successes. You've talked about the Dangote one that connected Apapa Port all the way to Ojota through Oshodi, Oronshoki. And that economic corridor, it has had massive impact on that. Still on Dangote, we literally have a nerve between the north and the south in Kogi, connecting Obajana and Kaba. And that road that you have there, providing there, is noted as one of the most significant concrete roads that we have constructed. And it's been catalyst for conversations about concrete roads and the durability of it. Apart from them, you've got BUA, you've got NNPC, you've got LNG with the bridges and roads they build there. So numbers-wise, I think definitely it has actually contributed to our road infrastructure in Nigeria. But when you ask the question on the efficiency, it's not just about the numbers, it's about the sustainability of it as well. When you have a project like that, how do you ensuring that that project has built-in resilience to be maintained and operated over time? You know how the system, how the scheme works, where you get front-loaded your tax credit, and you deliver the project. If that company walks out at that point and says, I've delivered you a 40-year life cycle project, what happens for the rest of the life cycle of that project? Who's maintaining it? Who's running it? So for this to work adequately, you have to have that oversight, so strict oversight function to make sure you're managing, any inadequacies, any losses, any inefficiencies. But also you have to ensure that you instill project management discipline from the onset. So you're building a resilient plan for starters because you're handing this over to a private sector individual to do. So you're ensuring somehow that you have that visibility. One, that resilience plan is there that adapts that project to sustainable, all the changing economic, environmental, political situations that project is adapting through all of that. So when you have the ability to look at a scheme like that and ensure that all of these are happening and you've embedded it into it, it has the potential, the tax credit scheme has the potential to be a massive game changer. The third leg of it I'd look at and say in terms of efficiencies, we've called a number of companies, but that's a drop compared to the private sector participation in country. So how much work has been done with sensitization? How much work has been done with actually forward plan, being deliberate about getting private sector participation, understand what the value of this, and even going as far as aggregating it, having a special purpose vehicle, for instance, tasked with creating this sensitization and creating this value and participation of the private sector, because there is a lot of room for private sector participation, and we could do with a lot more.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm interested in the maintenance and the sustenance, because it's commonplace to hear people say we don't have a maintenance culture in Nigeria, and it's obvious. I mean, for instance, they want to rehabilitate the Third Mainland Bridge, and we know how much the government has to vote. Perhaps if there was someone whose responsibility it is to ensure that they are checking the maintenance of roads and bridges like that, then when there's a little, I mean, if you go to the United States, every time there's a little work being done, they don't wait until there's a big gap or a big pothole or something. So if we were to give that sustenance responsibility to the private sector, what would be the incentive?
So, I've always said short-termism is the bane of our project existence. We have that approach of deliver the project, cut the ribbons, fanfare, everyone walks away. And the way we plan projects with that short-term mindset, we set the projects up to fail, right? When the funding stops, nothing happens on those projects. Hardly anything happens. And you have so many projects competing for very limited resources. So when we talked about a while ago, ensuring you build in sustainability resilience from onset. So if you understand from onset that I have a project, a pipeline, a bridge, a road, a stretch of road that is 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. What you're planning, the resilience planning at that point is how do we maintain it over this? So you're advocating a financial model that doesn't just look at cutting the ribbon and celebrating it, a model that actually caters for the maintenance, the benefits actualization long after the ribbons and the fanfare is over. And until we start getting that project discipline mindset in our project delivery, we'll keep having some of these issues. At the Offshore Lab, this is the company I work for. This is at the heart of what we set out to do differently. We set out to ensure that when we deliver projects like the Arrival Wing E at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, that's 14 months old. But it was part of the fanfare of the Dirty December, for instance, because everybody walked in there, and the year after, that project has been so well maintained, it looks like the day we commissioned it. And that's a project sponsored by NNPC and Shell when you talk of private sector participation in government projects. So that's very key in project delivery, and it's a culture that we need to embrace to make any sort of difference.
Even in the smaller circles, homes and all of that,
yes,
it is a need. But thank you so much, Emeka Obiwulu, the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Offshore Lab, for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Ini. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, let's celebrate the women a bit. Women in mining have decried the great difficulties associated with their jobs, which often come with hazards and health risks. Last year, 4 women lost their lives at a mining site in the suburb of Bauchi. There have also been reports of exploitation, abuse, and significant safety and environmental risks in an industry still dominated by men. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliyu, visited one of those sites and filed in this report.
A bucket, a shovel, a calabash, and a sack are all a woman needs to process solid minerals at this artisanal mining site in Yenja village, Tafa Balewa local government area of Bauchi State. Over 100 women of different age groups have found a source of livelihood here. Some of the women bring their babies with them. When they get tired, they rest and eat. The area is rich in tin, columbite, zircon, monazite, and precious stones. Mrs. Samaila, a 25-year-old graduate of the College of Education, Gindiri, has been engaged in this business for 5 years. She describes the physical toll the job takes as she digs a hole to get water that will be used to sift the raw concentrate using rudimentary techniques amid uncertainties of finding deposits.
This work is using energy. If you are doing it, sometimes we will come and try it. If you're tired, you will not do it again. If you stop, where are you going to get the money? You will remain without money.
In addition, they often experience back pain and headaches. The roles of men and women on this site are entirely different. The men own the mining pit, drill the holes, and get inside to extract raw materials. On the sidelines, the women assist by collecting the raw materials and are rewarded with 1 free bucket for every 10 they gather.
Yeah? Okay. These women work here together as a group, and they have earned 8 buckets of materials from helping the men over the past 2 days. The sifting process takes the whole day to complete, and if they are lucky, they could go home with about 2 kilos of solid minerals.
While cases of sexual harassment and security challenges have been reported at mining sites, the women working here say they have not experienced such issues. Away from the site, 23-year-old Mrs. Xavier brings her mineral materials to sell. It is sorted locally, and she earns 36,000 naira for 3 kilos of tin, with prices often fluctuating between 12,000 and 15,000 naira per kilo. She says that their job is dependent on luck.
One day you go, you can never make it, you can never get it to reach like this. One day you go, you can make it to pass like this.
The Nigerian Mineral and Mining Act of 2007 recognizes artisanal miners with provisions for regulations and support. An update on the act in 2023 included plans to formalize their activities. However, concerns remain about illegal operations, safety, environmental damage, and inadequate regulation. Organizing artisanal miners to maximize their benefits while ensuring compliance with the law is the focus of the state's government.
Pests locate, identify their locations, generate their data, register them into our database with the state corporate appears as artisanal miners. And finally, planning, to establish a kind of center where these resources are going to be centralized, are going to be collected, and in return at the same time, the state is, partnering with other investors.
Amid the economic gains, challenges and concerns, many women in the mining sector appear ready to pursue better options if they were available. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
So I guess when we talk about improving revenue of Nigeria, these are the sources. But what are they working with? Imagine working for like 2 days to get 8 buckets of the minerals, or after working for how many days you get 36,000 naira? Really? I guess there's the need to put an eye in Nigeria's potentials, hugely underutilized potentials. The needs are obvious. Well, I guess that's why we have a Made in Nigeria project office led by Mr. George Nwabweze, or Honorable George Nwabweze is the executive director of Made in Nigeria project, helping us to look inwards better. Honorable Nwabweze, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
So we've been talking about patronize Made in Nigeria, use Made in Nigeria, raw materials and all of that. How far have we gone in 2025?
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. That is the reason why Made in Nigeria is in existence. We need to harness our local production. We need to harness our homemade products. We need to harness all we have to make sure that this thing, as you are showing in the mining industry, if such is identified and mechanized, I don't think you can have something like that. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you, Honorable. Please go ahead. All right. Looks like Honorable Nwabweze is finding it difficult to hear me here.
if we are able to harness all we have, all our homegrown products, and make sure that all of them goes out, even to the extent we can produce the one we can be able to eat here and also export, that will go a very long way in supporting our society and also human capital development.
Yeah, but Honorable Wabweze, there's also the perspective that Nigerians' taste board has been has turned used to imported goods. You see our import bills, even food. Do you think we're on the path of changing that, or have we changed that?
Can you come up again?
I'm asking that Nigerians seem to be so used to imported goods that it's difficult to patronize made in Nigeria products. Are we doing enough to change that?
It is part of the job and part of the duty of Made in Nigeria to start reorienting people to believe in what you can produce and not mostly on a foreign product. If we can produce all we can use, all we can consume, automatically we can go a very long way to then export, because first you have to believe in what you are producing. You have to believe in what you have before you can be able to give it out to somebody else. So one is to start the reorientation process where we change our people mindset to believe that we can produce it, believe we can do it. Then believe we can, from it, we can be able to feed ourselves, then also have the one that can be able to export out. So it's all start from the orientation first. That's the first step.
Okay, so who would do this orientation? Because we talked about automobiles, for instance. We've heard how lawmakers have had to spend millions, hundreds of millions of naira to import vehicles. Meanwhile, we have at least vehicles that are put together in Nigeria, but they seem not be good enough. So if the government that's at the helm of affairs, making the laws, we have the Office of Orientation, National Orientation, if members of this leadership group are not patronizing the domestically made products, then where do we start from?
Okay, we have already started by expanding down to states. Currently now, Made in Nigeria have offices and state coordinators all over the country, down to local governments, down to wards. So through this, we can be able to have a regular training, regular orientation, then regular innovation, and be able to teach our people and then find a way to have an inclusive on how we can be able to start developing this. Because it's all about national strategy for homegrown economy promotion. So we need to do all this to develop, to grow, and promote what we produce. So the strategy we have already started is by developing and expanding down to states, then down to wards, in which we have already started having access and also having coordinators in different countries. Currently now about 20 countries outside the country for offshore takers. So with this, I think that is a gradual process and we're going to achieve that.
But what are you doing in the state? What exactly are you doing? Are you talking to people? Are you making the products available? Because we just saw women there using their hands and, you know, hardly tools. We don't see any major tools there. You know, so if we even want people to consume made in Nigeria, are they available? Are the products available? Is production easy, you know, for people to even access the products?
We are the data assessment and data assembly stage. Currently now we are collecting all the data of Made in Nigeria, which we are putting in our database, where you can get a particular product, which local government or what or community you can be able to get that. Then after data collections, we can now be able to now start the proper promotion or proper marketing or proper promotion of or other things that need to be inclusive in it. But currently now, we are collecting data of made in Nigeria products and also trying to expand to all the states, all the local governments, all the wards, in order to be able to get off-takers and be able to know where can we get this particular product, where can we access it, then who do we contact on a particular Nigerian product. So we are at the stage of collecting the data of Nigerian product and also expanding to be able to get the structure that we needed for this to be able to take off.
Very interesting, Honorable. And I would like to know how the structure is going to look like. But just a minute now, as I redirect our DSTV viewers, there's the Flag Off program on sensitization campaign against drug abuse and domestic violence in the northwestern zone of Nigeria. Is the Flag Off program on sensitization, talking about sensitization there. And the theme is Stop Drug Abuse and Domestic Violence in the Communities. That's happening in Kaduna, but that's for our GSTV viewers. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to continue staying here on Business Morning, please just switch to the next stream. But for our GSTV viewers, bye-bye to Kaduna State. So we'll come back to Honorable Wabweze. So you were talking about a structure that you're collating data to build. What would the structure be like, and what do you intend to do with the data and the structure that you're building?
We're already in collaboration with all the state governments, which we tag Made in a State. Then, let me use for Imo State, for example, or let me use Kogi, for example. We have Made in Kogi, Export Kogi. This Made in Kogi is all the products, goods, brands, and services made in Kogi. Then the Export Kogi is, after identifying all those products, then we can be able to now talk about exporting it, talk about producing to feed our people. So we're in collaboration with all the state governments. So the structure is all tied from the federal down to state.
So when you're working with the state government, are you working with, for instance, the farmers in those states, or is it the ministry? How exactly are you doing this?
Made in Nigeria project is a project of Office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation. It's not under any ministry. So it is a project that has been under the Office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation since 2006. So currently, 2024, as of end of last year, we started expanding to states. So currently now we are working hand in hand to expand down to states, to local government and to wards. So we can be able to build up the whole structure that we needed to move this thing forward.
All right, but Honorable, is there a plan at any point to also challenge from the presidency down to only use Made in Nigeria products? Any plan of such?
Can you come again?
I said, is there a plan by the Made in Nigeria project to challenge, I mean, and you mentioned it, this office is tied to the Office of the Secretary of the Federation, to challenge individuals from the presidency down to only wear, eat, drive Made in Nigeria products?
What I pick from what you are saying is challenges. Am I right?
I'm asking if there's a plan to tell them from the presidency down that they should only wear, eat, and drive, Made in Nigeria products.
Okay. Of course, that's what the campaign is all about, and that's
but
what
they are not doing it, Honorable. They are not doing it.
You can understand that it's all made in Nigeria. So we are going there, and it's a step by step, and gradually we will get to where we are going. It's an ongoing thing, and definitely we will get there. You know, Rome was not built in a day, but building Rome started in a day. So I believe that gradually we will get there.
We pray to get there on time, because I bet you if we see the president only wear, drive, and eat made in Nigeria, even I would be ashamed to wear anything that is not made in Nigeria. But we wish you the very best, and we'll be watching the space. Honorable George Nwabueze, the Executive Director of Made in Nigeria Project.
Thank you so much.
All right, now let's take a break. When we come back, we'll do global news, see what's happening outside of Nigeria or Africa, or still in Africa. And we know that one thing to look out for is that election in Germany. Yesterday, they had the election. And I think Ladi will have some results from that and other gist here on Business Morning. Stay with us. Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. We head to the global news segments now and see what's happening, but I have to challenge Ladi with this. Ladi, you're not wearing Made in Nigeria.
How do you know?
I see.
Because, you
not
might
coupled
be right.
in Nigeria.
Yeah, but made
in Nigeria.
Fabric and all of that. Don't worry, maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll prove you wrong tomorrow. I'll try.
The funny thing is, even when you see people wear native, local material, or what's supposed to be our local material,
it's still important.
It's still important, and that's really sad. And we used to have a very vibrant textile factory in this country some time ago, but now it is the potential. I don't know
if you've noticed a new trend now with guys. You see they wear pants. It could be Adire, design. Then they have like normal tops. Now it's a thing now, and I hear those pants are really expensive. They're made by a popular a brand, in Nigeria.
You would know.
Yeah, so it's a new thing now.
If it's made in Nigeria,
fantastic.
We're fine with it, because I mean we're talking of the value of the naira now.
Exactly.
We saw the women in mining using their hands and oars and all of that. I guess if there was a need more, somebody did say, if we create the demand for naira, then we wouldn't have to be checking on his 1,005 today.
Exactly.
We will have a more
we'll stable
and fair value
value, and we don't have to export some of these jobs.
Yeah, but Ladi, I also have to confess.
Of course, you too.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm guilty as charged.
Yeah. Tomorrow, all made in Nigeria, hopefully.
Okay, hopefully.
At this point. All right, let's get a check on what's playing out in the global economy. Now, we see South Africa, load shedding back in the news again. But this time, Eskom, the state-owned electricity utility company, they've made progress in reducing power outages following the recovery of several plants that had failed over the weekend, leading to the worst power cuts in a year. Eskom, they had been forced to go to stage 6 outage on Sunday after 10 generation units unexpectedly tripped off, removing about 6,000 megawatts from the national grid. However, the utility company announced today that it had reduced the load shedding to stage 4. That's from 6, removing 4,000 megawatts to prevent a total grid collapse. The power cuts will remain in place until further notice, and that's according to Eskom right there in South Africa. All right, let's look at some things to watch in the U.S. markets this week. The week ahead is packed with crucial updates on both the corporate side of things and the economy. Investors will be closely watching Home Depot and Lowe's earnings on Tuesday and Wednesday for insight into how U.S. consumers are holding up, but the real spotlight, that will be on NVIDIA's earnings report. That's for Wednesday evening. That's the first launch. That's the first one since the launch of China's DeepSeek large language model. That raised questions about the future of the AI boom. As one of the biggest market cap stocks, NVIDIA's performance could make waves in the tech world and beyond. So investors will be looking out for that. We also have PCE index. That's coming up Friday. That's the gauge, the U.S. Fed, prefer. So that's what to look out for. Then if you look at all those earning reports there from Home Depot, Lowe's, and NVIDIA. That's coming up this week. So let's move it on to Thailand now. Car production in Thailand, that plunged by a surprising 24.63% year-on-year in January, totaling just 107,000 units. As you know, weak domestic sales and exports, that took a toll. The Federation of Thai Industries reported on Monday that that drop was due to weak demand in the country. Southeast Asia's largest auto production hub and a key export base for major global automakers like Toyota, Honda. And this sharp drop marks the 18th consecutive month of declining production. And with the spokesperson for the FTI's automotive division expressed his shock, at the numbers, noting that production levels were usually low. Domestic car sales slid about 12% in January to 48,092 units, following a 20.94% drop in December, as high household debts and stricter auto loan conditions that dampened demand. Meanwhile, exports fell by 28.13% to 62,321 units, the weakest in over 2.5 years, hit hard by growing competition from Chinese cars. And Australia, Philippines, and Japan remained Thailand's top export markets. That's for 2024. And another big news today, Process, they're set to buy Just Eat Takeaway. European food delivery giant, that's justeattakeaway.com, is set to be snapped up by Dutch tech investor Process in a lucrative all-cash deal valued at around 4.1 billion euros. The offer, which values Just Eat shares at about 20 euros 3 each, comes with a generous 63% premium over the company's closing price on Friday. Process, majority owned by South Africa's Naspers, already holds 28% stake in rival delivery Hero. Following the news, Just Eat's shares, that surged by more than 54%, hitting a new 52-week high, while Delivery Hero saw a 3.6% bump. And Process, on the flip side, that dropped about 7.8%. And talking about surge in the euro, that surge today climbing to a one-month high after Germany's opposition conservatives clinched victory in the national election as expected. Meanwhile, the dollar, that stumbled to its weakest point in over 2 months, fueled by growing concerns over the U.S. economic growth outlook. Now we see Friedrich Merz there is poised to become Germany's next chancellor, is facing a tricky path ahead with complicated coalition talks, especially after the far-right Alternatives for Germany made historic gains, securing second place in a fragmented vote. The euro extended its early session gains, rising about 0.5% to $1.05 as investors shift their attention to how swiftly Merz's party can form a coalition and tackle the challenges facing the fragile German economy. All right, let's get a check on what's playing out in the UK now as India's Commerce Minister will meet his British counterparts. That's in New Delhi sometime today. Juliana joins us now from the UK. Great to have you, Juliana. So, Happy New Week. How will the revival of trade talks between India and UK, how do you think that will influence economic relationship? What's the word on the street about this meeting?
Good morning, Laddie. You can't believe this is actually the 15th round of talks between Britain and India since post-Brexit negotiations begun in January 2022, which were at the time spearheaded by the former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. And so, as you quite rightly said, the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, will today head to New Delhi to meet his Indian counterpart to really try and kickstart these negotiations, because, of course, we know that geopolitically, the world is so fragmented now. I think it's going to be interesting to see how these talks go, because Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, was one of the first world leaders to meet with President Donald Trump at the White House a couple of weeks ago. And I think he got quite a roaring reception from the president. It was very kind of lovey-dovey. So perhaps that body language, that strength, is going to help and perhaps hinder the negotiations between the two nations this week. I think really for India, they're starting to put their foot down. There are estimates that they are going to be the world's third largest economy by 2050, I think over the next 5 years. they're tracked to have the highest rate of growth in the G20. So, of course, it makes sense that for Britain, they do want to cozy up to them. But like I said, India are putting their foot down, not just because they've renewed their relationship with the world's largest economy, but also there have been some back and forth tensions about visas. We know that the Labour Party are really kind of cracking down on migration, taking over the mantle of the Conservative Party. And the Indian government are not happy about that. They're not happy with the way their citizens are treated. I think they're looking for a kind of visa deal similar to what Britain has with Canada, France, and Australia, whereby if you do business in the UK, you can get some social benefits which are not available to Indian businessmen in the UK at the moment. And also as well, I think it's been tough for students when they finish studying here. I think that they're supposed to leave immediately, and India are trying to push for a 2-year stay. So lots of negotiations, but let's see, as we say, our favourite statement. But yeah, Jonathan Reynolds heads to New Delhi later today.
Right. Wait and see. At this point, it looks like a long list of negotiations between both ministers there. But there's also another talk there in the market in the UK with the rising cost of private education. We know private education is expensive everywhere at this point, and we're seeing parents in the UK, they're finding interesting ways to manage this cost. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. As you quite rightly said, Laddie, private education expensive anywhere, certainly here in the UK. Parents spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds per year to make sure their children get elite status in the ever-evolving world. But we know since Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, announced in her autumn fiscal statement that VAT would be added to private school education, it's caused an absolute widespread backlash. I think parents, schools and teachers were not expecting the levy to be introduced so suddenly. So it was introduced in January. We were discussing last week, Laddie, on this show that one of the reasons why inflation was as high as 3% in January was because of this excess money being pumped into the economy by pretty teased off parents. And I think it's pretty fair to say that not everybody who sends their child to school is the wealthiest and the elitist. There are some people that do it for various reasons, including disability. They don't feel like their children will get the same amount of care and love in a state school. But as you said, parents are looking at creative ways. Some are tapping into mortgage equity. Some are actually, I was reading a Times article this morning, some parents are saying that they're willing to leave Britain because of the excess amount. Now, Rachel Reeves suggests that, this excess 20%, up to 20% value-added tax will generate £1.8 billion a year to fund an additional 6,000 state school teachers. Is that the reality? I think a lot of people are digging into the forecast. But yeah, really concerning times, particularly for some parents who've got 3 or 4 children at a time in school. And I'm sure lots of our viewers in Nigeria are feeling the pinch as well, Laddie.
Yeah.
A lot of them do send their kids to Britain, don't they?
Exactly. And, Julia, I'd have loved to have more kids at this point. When I think about the school fees, oh my goodness, I'm headed there. Economic data for this week, what should we expect in the UK?
It's quite a big week this week. It's always a big week, isn't it? Trump's in power. So I think we're going to have a busy week for 4 years, Laddie. This week, less data, more geopolitics. As you know, today marks the 3rd year of the Ukrainian conflict, which has taken a very dark turn, considering we've got this very public spat between Trump and Zelensky, Trump calling Zelensky a dictator. So there are lots of world leaders in Ukraine, Kiev specifically, supporting him. Very important is that Emmanuel Macron French president, he meets President Trump today in the White House. That's going to be big news. Expect lots of sound bites over the next coming hours. And then much later this week, we've got Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, meeting with Donald Trump. So this is definitely going to move markets. We know that the UK is still trying desperately to hold on to this special relationship status. But as we know, Trump has said some pretty shocking things about European leaders. So let's see how that happens. But yeah, less data, more geopolitics this week.
More geopolitics. Thank you so much, Juliana, for giving us the details of what's playing out in the UK. Thank you.
Thanks, Laddie.
All right, so there you have it. It's a
Juliana,
week.
forgot to add that I also have a meeting with President Trump this week, and that's going to move markets.
Yeah, that should move markets somehow.
All right, Laddie, see you at 1.
See you.
So that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Morning today. It's going to be an interesting 5 days. President Trump very busy. We'll bring that to you and a whole lot more right here. But Laddie will be back with myself. I have the market numbers intraday. That will be at 1 p.m. during Business Incorporated. You don't want to miss it. You have to stay informed. I'll see you then.